At 2:47 a.m. Pacific Time, radar screens across the Indo-Pacific light up. An unidentified formation has breached the air defense perimeter near Taiwan. Within minutes, Washington, Tokyo, and Canberra go silent, everyone waiting for the first move. In Beijing, the Central Military Commission holds its breath. One wrong decision could ignite the most catastrophic war in human history. This is not a movie scene. It's the nightmare scenario strategists have whispered about for decades. The United States and China, two superpowers locked in a collision course. It's not just a fight for territory or pride. It's a struggle for the soul of the modern world. But the real question isn't who fires first. It's who loses everything when the smoke clears. Welcome to this deep dive into the impossible question. If the US and China go to war, who truly loses? Stay until the end, because the answer might shock you. 1. Giants awaken. The two most powerful nations on Earth. In one corner stands the United States, a superpower forged through a century of global dominance, its military spread across 750 bases, its fleets patrolling every ocean. In the other stands China, rising, relentless, and revolutionary, transforming from a manufacturing giant into a military and technological titan. Both nations command vast economies and unmatched intelligence networks. America's edge lies in experience, wars fought across continents, decades of coordination with NATO and Pacific allies. China's advantage is focus, its military modernized with precision, built for one specific battlefield, the Indo-Pacific. Each side has prepared for this duel quietly, testing cyber defenses, perfecting hypersonic missiles, and expanding satellite constellations. Yet beneath the steel and silicon lies something deeper. America cannot afford to lose its global throne. China cannot retreat from its destiny of national rejuvenation. When pride becomes policy, peace hangs by a thread. 2. The trigger point, Taiwan and the spark of war. Every war begins with a spark. For the US and China, that spark is Taiwan. To Beijing, it's a breakaway province, unfinished business from the Civil War of 1949. To Washington, it's a democratic ally, a symbol of resistance against authoritarian expansion. The first missiles wouldn't come as a surprise. They'd come as a statement. China might launch precision strikes on Taiwanese runways, radar stations, and communication hubs, paralyzing the island before the US could react. American submarines, hidden beneath the Pacific, would move into strike positions. Carrier groups from Japan and Guam would surge forward. The world would witness the most technologically advanced conflict in human history unfold in mere hours. But here's the twist. Both sides know that even a small conflict could spin out of control. Taiwan is the fuse, but the explosion could engulf the entire planet. And in this scenario, no one truly wins. The economic fallout, a global collapse. Imagine the world economy, built like a spiderweb connecting every nation, every bank, every factory. Now imagine two giants tearing it apart from both ends. A US-China war wouldn't just destroy infrastructure, it would collapse trade itself. Every ship crossing the South China Sea, every semiconductor from Taiwan, every dollar and yuan exchange frozen. Inflation would skyrocket. Energy prices would explode. Factories in Vietnam, Malaysia, and even Mexico would grind to a halt without Chinese components. The US economy would suffer from shattered supply chains and market panic. China's economy, heavily dependent on exports, would face famine-like shortages and mass unemployment. Millions would lose jobs worldwide. In this war, the battlefield is everywhere. The grocery store, the gas pump, the internet. The real casualty isn't just soldiers, it's civilization's fragile balance. allies and enemies. The world chooses sides. The moment war breaks out, the world divides like never before. NATO allies would rally behind the US, the UK, Japan, Australia, South Korea, and Canada. Meanwhile, China might lean on Russia, North Korea, and Iran for strategic coordination. But alliances in modern warfare aren't about friendship. They're about survival. Nations would weigh costs, trade with China versus defense ties with America. Europe might hesitate. India might exploit the chaos to rise as a new regional power. Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia would find themselves caught between promises and threats. This is how world wars begin, not with one nation's anger, but with everyone else's fear. The planet would fracture into rival economic and military blocs. And while governments debate loyalty, civilians everywhere would pay the price for leaders' ambitions. The space war, the final frontier of destruction. The orbit isn't peaceful anymore. Within hours of conflict, anti-satellite weapons would streak into space, targeting communication constellations and GPS systems. Thousands of shattered fragments would turn Earth's orbit into a minefield of debris, effectively ending the space age for decades. The US relies on satellites for everything: navigation, surveillance, missile tracking. China knows that. By blinding America's eyes in the sky, it can cripple entire operations. But it's a double-edged sword. Once orbit is destroyed, both nations lose the very infrastructure that powers their missiles, ships, and aircraft. In this silent war above the clouds, humanity's technological pride becomes its downfall. The stars, once symbols of exploration, turn into reminders of destruction. Space, the new battlefield, would prove that progress and peril are two sides of the same coin. 9. The human cost. The faces behind the flags. Wars aren't fought by politicians. They're fought by 19-year-olds with trembling hands and families who never sleep again. In this conflict, millions would be displaced, not just in China or the US, but across the world. Refugees would pour out of Asia. Global food chains would collapse. Cities would experience blackouts lasting weeks. Social media would explode with misinformation. Propaganda would divide families and friends. Cyber attacks could silence journalists, manipulate news, and ignite riots. In both nations, citizens would be told they are defending freedom, justice, or destiny. But on the ground, no slogan can hide the truth. Every flag, red or blue, bleeds the same color. The real loss would not be measured in territory or power, but in the broken lives of ordinary people who never asked for war. 10. The nuclear nightmare. When logic ends, every general swears they can control escalation, until they can't. Imagine a missile mistakenly identified as a nuclear strike. Within minutes, automated systems kick in. Retaliation is launched. There's no undo button. Once nuclear weapons enter the equation, everything ends. The Pacific turns into a radioactive wasteland. Megacities like Shanghai, Los Angeles, and Tokyo vanish in minutes. The global climate shifts as dust clouds choke the atmosphere. Famine, radiation, and collapse follow. This isn't science fiction. It's what military planners call mutual suicide. In nuclear war, the concept of winning disappears. The survivors envy the dead. The Earth itself becomes the loser. And all of it could begin from a single miscalculated radar ping, a single overconfident leader, or a single broken communication line. The nuclear nightmare. When logic ends, every general swears they can control escalation, until they can't. Imagine a missile mistakenly identified as a nuclear strike. Within minutes, automated systems kick in. Retaliation is launched. There's no undo button. Once nuclear weapons enter the equation, everything ends. The Pacific turns into a radioactive wasteland. Megacities like Shanghai, Los Angeles, and Tokyo vanish in minutes. The global climate shifts as dust clouds choke the atmosphere. Famine, radiation, and collapse follow. This isn't science fiction. It's what military planners call mutual suicide. In nuclear war, the concept of winning disappears. The survivors envy the dead. The Earth itself becomes the loser. And all of it could begin from a single miscalculated radar ping, a single overconfident leader, or a single broken communication line. 12. The real enemy. Fear itself. If the US and China ever go to war, the real enemy isn't each other, it's fear. Fear that drives leaders to act before thinking. Fear that fuels nationalism. Fear that blinds people to reason. In the end, fear turns progress into destruction. The missiles, ships, and cyber networks are just tools. What matters is who controls them, and whether humanity can control itself. Both nations have the power to end civilization, but they also have the power to save it, through restraint, dialogue, and shared purpose. History's greatest wars began with pride. Its greatest peace began with understanding. The true test of our time is not how powerful we can become, but how wise we can remain. The question that remains: so, if the United States and China go to war, who loses? The answer is simple: everyone. The soldiers, the workers, the students, the families. The world depends on both. It's not a story of victory. It's a warning. A reminder that the most powerful weapon ever built is not a missile. It's human choice. If you made it this far, you're part of the few who care about what comes next. Let's keep questioning, keep learning, and keep hoping we never see this scenario become reality. Tell me in the comments, do you think the world could survive such a war? Or would it mark humanity's final chapter? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to keep the discussion alive. Because the day we stop talking about peace is the day we start preparing for the end.